Welcome to the Persecution Report, a podcast dedicated to uncovering the truth behind the crisis in Bangladesh, human rights violations, and historical injustices. I'm Dr. Bidit. Today. We are turning our attention to Bangladesh, a country which is on the brink of a massive political and human rights crisis. The violent overthrowing of the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, the rise of interim government, and resurgence of extremist violence. These all have created pressing questions that need to be asked, that need to be answered, addressed, and that will characterize the future of the country. And today we will be exploring some of those aspects, and I'm very pleased to be accompanied with a panel of experts. We have Mr. Tono Emroj Alam, human rights activist. We have Dr. Anjuman Islam, policy advisor and political analyst. We have Mr. Saifur Rahman from Justice Network Foundation, and we have Shahadnan Uzzaman, Secretary of Bangladesh Student League. So we see that in the last 7-8 months, there has been significant development in Bangladesh, which has severely created unrest, uncertainty. And these all are connected with the violent overthrow of the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. So we see that this political upheaval has got a historical context, and this historical context actually defines what the country is going through at this moment. So I'd like to invite Dr. Islam to comment on this about how the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's political career and her persona and her personality has given this particular has given Bangladesh the identity, and how she is connected and related with the historical development of Bangladesh. Over to you, Dr. Islam. Thanks.
Thank you, Bidit Day, for having me in your show. So let me start with saying this. Sheikh Hasina, she was born in 1947, that year when that time Bangladesh was with Pakistan. So India and Pakistan got their independence. So her entire life is basically a canvas. That the history of Bangladesh was written in that canvas. And Sheikh Hasina's lineage is deeply tied to Bangladesh's independence as well, as the daughter of the father of the nation, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. She herself also was involved in student politics since her early life. She was an active student leader as well. And later, during her tenures as prime ministers, she carried her father's legacy to build a progressive and secular Bangladesh. Her stance against extremists have made her a target for Islamic militants and other terrorist groups as well, and mullahs, of course. So basically, she is leading Bangladesh from the forefront to become a secular socialist Bangladesh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Islam. That's quite comprehensive and quite informative and insightful response. So we understand that the crisis that Bangladesh is going through for the last 54 years since its independence is rooted in the way the country would be defined on the basis of its 1971 foundational principles. May I invite Mr. Alam to reflect on that, how this divide has actually defined the political journey of the country over the years. Thanks.
Since 1947, Bangladesh is going through, Bengali people are going through an identical crisis. That we know before 1947, there was a proposal that Bangladesh is going to be a secular country. The proposal, it was not discussed very much, but the proposal was there would be 3 countries in the Indian subcontinent. For the majority people, it is going to be India. The Muslim majority people, it would be Pakistan. And for the Bengali people, a secular state where religion would not play any role in formation of the country. a secular state named Bangladesh for Bengali people. Since 1947, when Bangladesh became a part of Pakistan, the East Pakistan, which Bangladesh have been struggling because of injustice, fairness, and we have been fighting. In this fight, Sheikh Hasina's father, our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, was the leader. Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman forged the idea of Bangladesh based on secularism, but we all know that there always have been communal forces. Like any other societies, Bengali society is no exception. And this fight between secularism and communalism existed in Bangladesh since 1947. In 1971, when we had our great liberation struggle, we have seen these communal forces collaborating with the Pakistani forces. These forces we have seen collaborating to rape our women, to murder our brothers, to murder our people. They torched and vandalized our cultural sites, cultural heritage, our houses. This struggle continues in Bangladesh. This division. Fortunately, in Bangladesh, these communal people are no more than 8 to 10%. Most of the Bangladeshi people are secular people. And now there's the existential question. That is, whether Bangladesh to remain secular. If Bangladesh to remain secular, what is the symbol of secularism to Bangladesh? Bangabandhu Sheikh and later daughter, our former prime minister, or many of us who say prime minister, Sheikh Hasina, the president of Bangladesh Awami League. I would like to ask Mishubhai to put the slide here about how I see Sheikh Hasina. I see Sheikh Hasina from a statement made by Justice Rajinder Sachar. In his groundbreaking Sachar report, Justice Sachar, former Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court and one of the finest legal brain Indian subcontinent have ever seen, wrote, in any country, the faith and confidence of minorities in the function of the state in an impartial manner is an acid test of its being a just state. Now I am going to a despicable statement made by Dr. Muhammad Yunus, the leader of the current interim government. Justice Dr. Muhammad Yunus, to justify the torture of minorities in Bangladesh, stated these people, these minority people, Hindus, Buddhists, the tribal people, they are tortured because they are supporters of Bangladesh Awami League, because they are supporters of Sheikh Hasina. That's why they're persecuted. That's why they're tortured. That statement justifies what Sheikh Hasina is. Sheikh Hasina is a beacon of hope for people who are vulnerable. These people, the minorities, believe that because Sheikh Hasina is there, Bangladesh is their country. They know that Sheikh Hasina is the voice for them. We have seen in 1971 rape of our women, of our girl children. In all societies in the world, there are very despicable people, pedophiles. Bangladesh is no exception. We have seen, like other countries, one or two cases of pedophilia, or sometimes rape and then murder of girl children. It happens in these cases like 2, 3, 4, 5 in a country every year. Bangladesh is no exception under Sekesna. But right now, what we are seeing is every day, 6 girl children are raped. Every day, women are raped. This didn't happen under Sheikh Hasina because those perpetrators, those heinous people knew there is someone to protect the vulnerables in Bangladesh. and that person is Sheikh Hasina. Today, Sheikh
Thank you.
Hasina is there. Women are tortured. Women are harassed on the street on their way to work, on their way to shopping mall, on their way to market, on their way to anywhere. Women are tortured. Women are violated. They're harassed because Sheikh Hasina is not there. Those people know. So they can victimize the most vulnerable classes of the society, the minorities,
Thank you
women,
very much,
and
Mr.
children.
Alam. Thank you very much. That's a very eloquent expression, and we can see from the statement, from the comments made by Mr. Alam and Dr. Islam, that that Sheikh Hasina stood beside the vulnerables and people who are also disadvantaged, like women, underprivileged communities, like religious minorities. And also, as Dr. Islam said, that she was often criticized and she was attacked by right-wing extremists time to time because of her steadfast commitment to inclusive and progressive Bangladesh. So, on that note, I would like to get back to Dr. Islam once again. And how do you see the trial of war criminals that she it was her election manifesto, it was in her election pledge, and she delivered that, and that wasn't the case, that wasn't possible in previous years, and she actually achieved that. So where do you see her personality coming into that particular area of her regime?
Yes, thank you. War crime trial, that was that was one of the main item in the manifesto in her 2019 election campaign, not 19, 2009 election campaign. So being said that, and also as I mentioned earlier, that she carried the legacy of her father, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and so in 1971, when we had our war of independence, during that time, the anti-liberation group, they actually caused several types of war crimes, including hundreds and thousands of rapes, specifically on Hindu minority women, and also Awami League supporters. They killed unarmed Awami League supporters, uh, tortured, then they arsoned villages after villages. So after the liberation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, he actually created this law to try these war criminals who are basically from that anti-liberation group, and brought them into justice. Now, unfortunately, 1975. On August 15th of 1975, his whole family was assassinated. But after that, his daughter, Sheikh Hasina, she also created this ICT to try those criminals. Now, you have to understand these anti-liberation force, they are very strong, and we like when she created this ICT, several years have passed, and then these group of people, they not only grew in numbers, supporters, but also they became powerful in terms of financially. So it was a very big challenge for her, but she kept her word, and she continued this justice to bring them under justice. And actually, she executed the ICT Act to try them.
Thank you very much, Dr. Islam. And so far, we also get an impression that because she was a very decisive leader, her decisive leadership made Bangladesh a safe place for many, for all, and an inclusive, progressive Bangladesh, which had tremendous economic development in the last 16 years, and that stability and safety, it wasn't achieved overnight. We know in 2004-5 there was a surge of Islamist militant who also tried to destabilize the country during Sheikh Hasina's tenure, but she was very, very decisive in tackling those militants. And now that she has departed, since her departure, we can see that there is a vacuum in leadership. The current leadership is completely unable to tackle these Islamist militants. And some cases, we also can see that there are tacit indication that the government missionaries, including some student leaders, they pander to such political parties, right-wing political parties, and band outfits. So we can see that the departure of Sheikh Hasina, in a way, is a has not delivered the good to Bangladesh. Rather, Bangladesh has become an unsafe place. Now, that leads us to the question that why it all happened. May I request Mr. Rahman to reflect upon the incidents that led to the August movement? Mr. Rahman, could you please enlighten us, shed some light on how this particular movement transpired and how it um, uh, reached the level that we saw on August the 5th?
Uh, Hello, everyone. Thank you. I'm really so excited to be here today. First of all, a big thank to Mr. Day for having me on the podcast. And it's truly an honor to be the part of this conversation. I will, in short, I will tell you the background of it, why it has happened, and then I will come to the incidents. In 2018, following a widespread student protest, the government of Bangladesh decided to abolish the positive affirmation system that reserved 56% of government jobs for certain groups of people, including women, indigenous communities, and Liberation War veterans' descendants. However, in June 2024, the High Court reinstated this system, sparkling protests from students who argued it was discriminatory. Now, let's see how it has evolved in just few weeks. On July 2nd, protests erupt in Dhaka, with students demanding the complete abolition of this positive or affirmative system. As protests intensified, these so-called student leaders organized sit-ins, blocking key intersections and highways, leading to major disruptions. At that time, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's remarks on the 14th July, which was intentionally misquoted, further fueled the anger, causing violence that spread to other cities as well, resulting in multiple deaths. What we have seen, despite the government's effort to contain the unrest, including imposing curfews and deploying the army, protest actually escalated. On July 21st, the Supreme Court ruled to abolish most of the reservations, leaving 93% of the positions open for general applicants. However, the ruling was seen as insufficient by the key figures of the protest, and it had continued. By late July, some of the student leaders were arrested and a few declared an end to the protest. But what we have seen, other vote to keep fighting. On August 3rd, students held a massive rally demanding the resignation of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and the formation of a new national government.
May I add something here?
Sure, sure.
Please
Thank
do,
you.
please.
Thank you. So I want to add a little bit of my experience here. Fortunately or unfortunately, I was in Bangladesh during that whole July August unrest time. And the day when that court verdict came out, Mr. Rahman was mentioning about that. So the emergency was lifted for a few hours, and I went out to see around the Dhaka city on a rickshaw ride. And the rickshaw puller seemed to be very sad, and he was actually wiping off his eyes with back of his arms. So I asked him what happened, why is he crying, and he said something that I was not ready at all to hear. So his question to me was basically that why the court why the verdict was like that. And he was basically saying that this verdict is actually goes in favor to the will of people. How could the court did it? And he kept on saying that there remained no quota for women in the government jobs anymore. And he had 3 daughters, and he was saying that when the students were going through this movement to abolish all types of quota or reservations, so they did not ask me what I want, they did not ask my daughters what they want. So basically now there is nothing for my daughter, and we are the backward portion of the nation. So that actually made me think about this whole thing. I was happy that okay, the verdict came out and students agreed to the verdict and everybody was happy. But this rickshaw puller's story actually made me think and made me very sad. But unfortunately, these kind of stories, no media covered that, and nowhere in this whole quota movement history it was written that some people are actually in grief, and they basically did
And
not
Dr.
like
Islam, may I
that
also
10% of the
add
quota was
here?
abolished for women.
Thank you very much. That is a very poignant anecdote, very, very emotional, very emotive indeed. But also, may I also add here that affirmative actions are integral to a progressive country. You go to any developed nations, even our neighboring countries, including India and Pakistan, they have got affirmative actions and reservations for disadvantaged communities. So we were kind of the whole nation was in a way perplexed and a little bit baffled by what the actual demand was. Was it a complete abolishment? Was it against a quota system, or was it reformation of quota system? Because the student leaders continued to change their narratives throughout the time, if I'm not mistaken. So may I request Mr. Shad Adan Zaman because he himself is a student. So could you please share your experience and your taking of the whole movement? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Dev, for having me here. So the problem what we have seen over the last couple of months since August 5th, 2024, is the Yunus-led interim government is actually whitewashing all the terrorist activities that are happening currently right now in Bangladesh. And since August 5th, Dr. Yunus and his interim government has maintained this statement that all the terrorist activities, all the radical and extremist actions that are happening right now in Bangladesh, all of those are actually politically motivated, not religiously motivated. The problem is they're deliberately misleading the people of Bangladesh and the international community from the real issues that are currently happening in the country. And the problem is we can expect from a Nobel laureate to understand that these are not just religious, these are not just politically motivated actions, right? Because even if a person is being attacked because of their political alliance with Awami League, it doesn't take away the fact that that person is a Hindu. There is a religious dimension to it as well. So we can expect from a Nobel laureate like Dr.
Can I just add one question to that? Do you see that there is a kind of similarity the way Jewish community was vilified in 1930s Germany, and they were attributed to be connected with some political maneuvering, but also the whole community was stereotyped and vilified? Do you see that the same sort of pattern emerging now in Bangladesh by identifying and attributing in Hindus as a supporter of a particular political party.
Precisely, Dr. Day. Because what is happening right now in Bangladesh under the watch of Dr. Yunus is completely analogous to what happened in Nazi Germany. What Nazis did, they created this pseudo-scientific framework that we don't hate Jew people, we hate them because of their race, not because of their religion. And Nazis deliberately used that pseudo-scientific framework to attack, rationalize, and justify the Holocaust against Jews, right? So this is the same thing that is right now happening in Bangladesh. Literally, after August 5th, 2024, top convicted terrorists who were behind the bars during Aomi League's rule in the last 15 years, they were released from prison. We are not talking about our random local neighborhood extremists. We are talking about convicted terrorists like Jashimuddin Rahmani, who is the chief of Ansarullah Bangla team. We are talking about someone who is linked, who is not just linked, is actively supported by terrorist outfits like Al Qaeda and even ISIS. And in a lot of cases, we often miss what these terrorist leaders are actually preaching to their audience or preaching to the supporters. They're deliberately saying, Jashimuddin Rahmani, for instance, he is giving speeches and he is making the case for a jihad, for a takeover of Bangladesh in a Taliban style so that they can establish an Islamic caliphate in the country. The problem is he's deliberately using religious scriptures and misinterpreting them in a manner that misleads kids like me, people younger than me, or even people of your age as well. This is precisely the problem. And Mr. Day, to be very honest, we can't just imagine this happening in New York. Imagine someone like Rahmani giving speeches across community centers and mosques around New York, and he's making the case, look, Abraham Lincoln, we are against Abraham Lincoln because he defended democracy. And democracy is actually against the scripture, is anti-Islamic, is anti-religion. Therefore, we need martyrs who are going to hold, we need people who are going to hold AK-47, run onto the streets and kill people and even be willing to sacrifice their lives just to establish an Islamic caliphate. If this were the case in New York, in America, or even in Europe, Homeland Security, FBI, and other law enforcement agencies would have just been there and stopped all the sermons and all these gatherings of these terrorist organizations. The problem is, Dr. Yunus seems to be extremely relaxed and empathetic towards that. Yes, Mr. Day.
Thank you very much. I think we have got the point here that the current regime is pandering to religious extremists. And,
I
yes,
would like
please
to
go
add
ahead,
two
Mr.
points to
Alam.
this. Imagine someone tells you that since August 5th, in the past 7 months, 1,400 sculptures and museums have been torched, torn down, vandalized in a country. Imagine someone tells you that attacks on 2,000 instances of attacks on vulnerable religious communities. And I ask you, name me the country, which country would it be? The answer you would give me is, is that Afghanistan and the Taliban government? Or is it Syria and the Daesh government? This is happening in Bangladesh. That 1,400 sculptures. This is telltale sign of terrorism. No one in this world can deny it. That
So there are attacks against minorities. There are attacks against cultural, social institutions, sculptures, arts. There is an attack against women footballers. And also, Mr. Alam, you have noticed recently there is a report from Amnesty that the press freedom is severely compromised in Bangladesh. Would you like to reflect on that?
Well, at the Amnesty International and 8 other organizations acted yesterday, we thank them. When we thank them, we also would like to add this: it's too little, too late.
Yeah.
Since since August 5th, we are seeing journalists are behind the bar just for doing their job on fabricated murder charges. Like anyone, whoever wants to, you know, put a murder charge against a journalist, they can do a murder charge, and the government will arrest them. Okay, just right now, okay, 2 or 3 journalists are behind the bar, like serious journalists, and they're tagging them as Awami League supporters. Being an Awami League supporter is not wrong. Also, in journalism, you cannot say that a journal in journalism, what you have to do right is your fact is right, but you can have a political perception. We see it. We see it in the Western world. We see it. We see it in the United States. Fox News supporting the Republican side, CNN, MSNBC supporting the Democrats. What's wrong with that? A journalist or a news entity can have its political perceptions. What matters is they are not spreading disinformation. And even if they do something really wrong, what they could do is, okay, there is a case. A journalist going behind the bar for this long in murder charges, any case against a journalist or related to free speech, it is bailable. That's the law in Bangladesh. Bangladesh was a country
Can I
where
can I
rule of law
can I add
was
something here?
upheld.
Can
Yes,
I add
Mr.
something?
Rahman, please go ahead.
It's not only the partisan people. What we have seen after 5th of August, all the news representatives from all the cities in Bangladesh, all 16 districts of Bangladesh, were being terminated by just sending a WhatsApp message to everyone. So just by sending a message, they have terminated all the news representative from all different cities. So that is a very, very alarming thing how this can happen. Those all of those journalists were not partisan even, right? You cannot like say everyone of those out of those journalists, they were very much scared whether the truth will be revealed by them.
Yes,
The pro-
I want just to summarize the whole thing, that it is now pretty much evident that this fall of Sheikh Hasina's government or Awami League government was not because of this so-called student uprising or anything. It was not just another mass uprising that led to fall of a government. It was closely tied, actually, like uh, very tied to the what 1971 war, as well as the extremist group here. That's the key point. I don't know whether we actually touched that
Yeah.
in particular, but we have to focus on that fact that now behind this Dr. Yunus's interim government, the actual the government is run by those extremist elements in that society.
So, if I may add with Dr. Islam, I think there is a deep state right now in Bangladesh which is operated and controlled by terrorists and radicals. And if I may add to Mr. Rahman as well, it's not just about journalists and how journalists are being assassinated through WhatsApp. It's also, we can also see the same thing happening with the book fair attack, with any other attack right now in Bangladesh, how social media, how Facebook, WhatsApp, and other social media platforms are being actively used. More importantly, it's not just digital presence, but also in offline. What they're doing is they're using mics of local mosques, announcing the attacks on different establishments, on Sufi shrines, on temples beforehand. Police is not doing anything. They're distributing leaflets across different areas and planning. They're not just planning, they're planning and mobilizing masses, and the law enforcement agency is completely silent and is not taking any action whatsoever. What does it indicate?
And,
Yes.
and so what you're saying here, all of you kind of echoing the point that Bangladesh has become a less safe, less tolerant country because there is the law and order has completely collapsed.
Yes.
right? Apparently, there is no administration that's working right now, and there is even ominous sign of the rise of Islamism, and that's why we can see that multiple international media have picked this up. Nikkei Asia, Turkish TV, The Guardian. So there are repetitively they are stating that there is a potential threat of further deterioration of this situation, which can pave the way for extremist elements to take over.
Yes.
So now that we are in a situation, and it feels like deja vu in a way that we were here before. In 1971, the similar sort of atrocities were perpetrated against minority community. Army League was singled out and was banned, and there was a complete crackdown on Army League and pros liberation and progressive activists, and there was of course the whole narrative of the occupying Pakistani army was fueled by religious extremism. So, and that led to millions of people being massacred, rape, arson, which you already have mentioned. And Sheikh Hasina's government actually brought those perpetrators to justice, which was a long-standing demand of the nation for 40 years. Now, Mr. Alam, would you like to take us through that process and also what we can see that current government doing in terms of justice?
Okay, thank you, Birinda. There's one point that is pushed over and over again by Yunus media machinery and the propaganda machinery, that Awami League government was overthrown by the people. That is not right. Awami League government was overthrown by a coalition of extremist element of the society, some students, and people who received disinformation. We have seen this disinformation campaign on social media throughout July and August. Some people were disappointed, but people were not on the street on that sense. We have now in Bangladesh the religious fundamentalist student force, Jamaat-e-Islami's student wing, Islamic Chhatra Shibir, and their activists are claiming how they were at the forefront of this movement. It must be mentioned that Jamaat-e-Islami's student wing, Islamic Chhatra Shibir, was named a terrorist organization, world's third biggest terrorist organization in 2013. And this is a cadre-based organization. It was difficult when such people with one motivation, violence, come on the street. And we now also know that there was people outside the country were involved in this, third parties, mass finance, and now the leaders of this of the so-called student protest, they are saying they had preparation for an armed struggle. This is the truth behind this movement. The quota reform was not an issue. Quota reform was resolved. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina repeatedly said, we will reform the quota in your favor, as we did in 2018. This is that Bangladesh is a country of rule of law. It has a high court. When a matter is pending in the high court, unless and until this matter is settled by the court, the government cannot intervene.
But that has been, Mr. Alam, I would like to add, that has been resolved on 21st of July by Supreme Court already. After
Yes.
that, there was no valid reason to continue this protest. And now
So,
the question rise, the people should ask if they want a really like a good change towards a good change. They should ask while these so-called student leaders are saying they had the preparation of like taking arms on hands, where those arms are now, who had supplied those arms, where did they get it from, and as of now, why the rule of law it couldn't be established. Could it be, is it connected to those arms they already have somewhere? Like where those arms didn't disappear, right? Those arms are there in the society or in somewhere.
Yeah, I
Also
mean,
when they says Philip, when they says that Sheikh Hasina's government was overthrown by people, we have a very simple response to this, and that response is bring on a free and fair election. What are you afraid of?
yeah,
Our people are behind the
absolutely. But
bar in the jail. Bring on an election, and we will show which
also,
party who
Mr.
Bangladeshi people
Alam,
want.
Mr. Alam, I'm sure you have been monitoring the development of the formation of new ICT, International Crimes Tribunal, by Yunus government, and we see that there is a formation of judges and also prosecutors. Would you like to comment on that, please?
Okay.
Yeah, maybe Mr. Alam can start, and Dr. Islam, please feel free to jump in.
About the formation of a new ICT code, ICT tribunal, I'm just going to give one example to clarify it. The chief prosecutor of the ICT tribunal, Tajul Islam. Tajul Islam, we all know, was one of the most vocal representative defenders, lawyers of the war criminals during 2013 till 2018, 19, okay, all the way through. Now, Tajul Islam became the chief prosecutor of the tribunal. Now, let's examine the case of ATM Azharul Islam. ATM Azharul Islam is a convicted war criminal and a leader of Bangladesh Jamaat Islami. This is the person, Jamaat Islam, and this is the person Tajul Islam has defended in the court as his lawyer. Now, for the review petition, Tajul Islam sent the review petition of this person to the High Court's Appellate Division. Firstly, he was the defender of this. Now, being the chief prosecutor, he is the plaintiff now. You can see the conflict of interest. The finest legal brains of the country is saying this. It's from Barrister Shahidin Malik. Barrister Shahidin Malik stated, a lawyer cannot switch sides in a case. If a lawyer has previously represented one party, representing the opposing party later is a violation of professional ethics. He added, in sensitive cases like those at the International Crimes Tribunal, greater caution should have been exercised. This is Barrister Shahidin Malik. We know him as an impartial person and one of our best lawyers. What the law says in Bangladesh, the Bar Council law. Bangladesh Bar Council of Bangladesh is the regulator of professional conduct and ethics of the lawyers in Bangladesh. And according to Chapter 2, Section 2 of the Bar Council's Professional Conduct and Etiquette Rules, if a lawyer possesses confidential information about a case, they cannot represent the opposing party in that case. This is not only Bangladesh. This is a universal code of ethics for legal practitioners all over the world. Wherever there is rule of law, this ethic is upheld. And without ethics, without morality, rule of law means nothing. Rule of law without ethics doesn't exist. And I hope that explains Tajul Islam and his role at the ICT. There is no ethics in appointment of Tajul Islam, and that shows this government, a government without ethic, a government who doesn't care about rule of law, a government who is tyrant, authoritarian. They impose whatever they want. Everything we have achieved as a country in the past 52 years, including rule of law and the separation of all three organs of the state, our executive, law, and lawmaking, executive, and judiciary, they do not exist. The separation doesn't exist anymore.
I
There's
have an
no
I have an example here, Alom. I have an example of how this government is not actually following any sort of law and order. We have come to know that there were some bans imposed for seminars or meetings or any sort of processions for certain areas in Dhaka city. But what we have seen in 7th of March and also yesterday, the people who are part of this government are organizing such processions in those areas, and they were not like stopped by the government or not stopped by any of the authority, right? So it's very clear that they really don't care about law and order. They really don't care about any sort of institutional setup what we should have. So if a government can validate or ensure or enable those sort of things, then the position of the government is very much questioned here.
Thank you, Mr. Rahman. Yes,
I
Dr.
want
Islam,
to,
please.
yeah, I want to add something to both Saifur Rahman and Tana Imraus. So first, I'm coming to Saifur Rahman. So what you are saying here, and what I'm listening is this interim government is. What basically this government is doing is whatever is coming or going in their favor, they are allowing those kind of protests, and whatever are going against them, they are barring those protests. So that's basically an authoritarian government do. That's what they do. And the Tona Imros, you actually laid the ground for whatever I wanted to add previously. So they they meaning this nexus of anti-liberation forces from 1971 defeated force, and the extremists and conservative political parties, they actually tried to eliminate Sheikh Hasina all along. And Sheikh Hasina has faced 18 assassination attempts in her entire life, and hundreds of Awami League supporters and leaders actually sacrificed their lives to protect and save her. So August 5th was nothing but yet another plot to kill her, and which is basically a continuation of what we have seen on 15th of August in 1975. One of the deadliest terror attacks orchestrated in three different locations simultaneously to eradicate Sheikh family. Where 18 members, including Sheikh Hasina's father, father of the nation Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, her mother, three brothers, two sisters-in-law, uncles, aunts, all were killed by junior army officers. So but as 5th of August of 2024, as they failed to kill Sheikh Hasina and her sister Sheikh Rehana, I think now they are trying to create this kangaroo court in the name of ICT to basically, again,
Yeah.
it's another
Right.
attempt to
So,
kill.
so we see that it's a culture of assassination, politics of vendetta, and retribution, which have kind of characterized the current regime, and also what we saw in the past, who are the revisionist forces who wanted to deviate the country from the path of its foundational principles. But also, I'm conscious of time. We have got just 10 minutes left. A country is often defined and judged and evaluated by how the country treats its women population. And what we are seeing now, as Mr. Alam mentioned about rape cases, about violence against women, Dr. Islam, would you like to take us through this, the current situation with women in Bangladesh?
Sure. What has been going on in Bangladesh since August 5th is utterly sad. So, the women and children in Bangladesh are in absolutely dire, like the situation. Activists and human rights organizations started to raise concerns already, but it did not come in a large scale. The Secretary General of United Nations visited Bangladesh a few days ago for a 4-day tour, but he did not mention a word about these atrocities. Now, I feel like adding something here from during Sheikh Hasina's tenure. So during her tenure, her administration focused heavily on economic empowerment of women, and by introducing programs to support women entrepreneurs and women employment. And because of that, for several consecutive years, Bangladesh has been emerging as the top performer in South Asia in terms of gender parity. Now, under this interim government led by Dr. Yunus, women's rights in Bangladesh are facing extreme challenges due to growing radicalism and intolerance. Reports indicated that radical elements supported by the interim government is restricting freedoms that women were experiencing during Sheikh Hasina's tenure. There has been an increase in social scrutiny and violences against women. And Dr. Yunus's government put a stop on social safety allowances for a big number of people, like widows, divorced women, elderly individuals, disabled, freedom fighters, and other backward people, and which were allocated by Sheikh Hasina's government. And this is impacting women the most. And Dr. Yunus's government halted them in the name of fixing errors, but neither of those errors were fixed, nor those allowances are reinstated in last 7 months. And on top of that, women were the ones to lose jobs in the stagnant economic situation in last 7 months. So like 150 or 160 garments industries were closed due to lack of orders because of the continuing political unrest and instability. And majority of the employees in those garments were women. We all know that. And so all of these basically were taken away financial freedom that women were enjoying during Sheikh Hasina's tenure. And women, as now they're relying more on men for financial support, so they are
But also,
encountering
also
financial violences and
thanks. I
family
mean,
violence.
those are very, very insightful. But also, we have seen that the rise of moral policing.
Yes.
Women on the streets are being advised and often being ordered to dress and behave in certain ways. And also we see that women football team was prevented from taking part in playing. So do we see that, as you mentioned previously, like the Talibanization is happening? Would you like to tell us about that?
Yes, of course.
Bill,
So, oh,
Or is it Mr. Alam, if you'd like to take up?
Bidit, I would like to take that. Okay, I have a very different angle of seeing it. As I mentioned earlier, that in advancement of women is progressiveness. When a society advancing the women's cause, this society is advancing, it is progressing. And in the context of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina symbolizes this advancement, this progressiveness. Those the elements of the society who want to stop the advancement of women, who want to stop women from coming to the workforce, they now know Sheikh Hasina is not there. So women now in Bangladesh, when they go to play football, during Sheikh Hasina's tenure, we built the best football team of women in South Asia. In Asian level, we are one of the best. We were dreaming that within 10, 15 years, first time Bangladesh will play in the FIFA global event, which is FIFA World Cup. That was the plan for the women. This is a symbolization. This is symbol of the plan. What Sheikh Hasina did for women didn't begin today. It began in 1996 when she first came to power. Sheikh Hasina created a system where women from every marginalized community will become publicly elected. Thanks to Sheikh Hasina, Bangladesh had one of the biggest number of elected public officials in the world, and we say it with pride. Bangladesh have over 12,000. We are a very small country, 144,000 square kilometers. A country of 144,000 square kilometers has over 12,000 elected women. That is the progress. That is the message Sheikh Hasina has given. Women in power,
Can I
women in leadership role. And
I
that
would
was
like
the
Yes, Mr.
progressive
Rahman,
value.
briefly, we just
And
have a few minutes left.
I would like to add here with with a very specific data. We know houses were given to 1.3 million people for homeless people, and those houses, the ownership of those houses were given to the women member of those family to ensure the safety and security of the women. So women empowerment was one of the topmost priority of Sheikh Hasina's government. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, uh, esteemed panelists. So, viewers, from this discussion, what we can see is that what happened in Bangladesh in July, August 2024, and what is and the subsequent events, these are not about just political transition. There is also an inherent struggle to get justice, law, and to define the future of democracy, to define the journey, the trajectory where this country would go. A country which has got enormous potential, a country which has delivered to millions of people over the years. And now it is time that international community turn their attention to Bangladesh and to retrospect and to reflect and to think and to contemplate that what the future would be. Are we going to allow the country to become yet another Afghanistan, as many media personnel are saying around the world? Or are we going to uphold the rule of law, justice, secularism, and progressive ethos in this country? So I would say that we must not allow the people, the very people who wanted to erase the history, wanted to divert and distract the country, to lead and to define and to write the future. Until the next time, I am Vidit Day signing off. Thank you very much.